Okay. I want to thank everybody for coming today. Thank you for showing up, even though we're all at home and doing so many different things with our online learning. I'm going to share my screen with you guys in just a minute. And so let me pull that up for you. Oh, come on. Okay. All right, so like I said, I want to thank you all for coming. I want to share with you today my action research project proposal that I will be working on to complete my instructional leadership at Jacksonville State University. The title is The Impact of Social Emotional Learning Curriculum on School Behavior Incidents. I want to start off by telling you a little bit about Challenger Elementary. We are a part of the Huntsville City School District here in Huntsville, Alabama. We are located in South Huntsville within the Huntsville city limits. We have 513 students that we serve through pre-K and 5th grade. Our demographics are 58% white, 17% Black, 15% Hispanic, and 10% other races. We have 35% of our student population that receive free and reduced lunch, and approximately 80 weekend food bags are passed out each weekend that are donated by a local church. Because we have 35% that receive free and reduced lunch, we are not considered a Title I school. So when I began this project and sat down with Dr. Wallace, my mentor and principal, to look at different issues within Huntsville City Schools, and more specifically Challenger, we began discussing behavior because of the way that it affects every school day. It takes time away from teachers and administration and the academic learning of all of our students. And Huntsville City Schools, with behavior referrals on the rise, they began tracking referrals with a program that we refer to as Bloom. It is a behavioral learning optimization and outcome management system. And it basically documents all of the behavior reports that we have. Huntsville City Schools began looking at the data and saw that certain subgroups had a higher behavior referral than others. Well, Bloom reports for Challenger were consistent with Huntsville City Schools, and in the years 2016 and 2016-17 and 17-18, despite only making up 17% of the population, the referrals for these subgroups accounted for 30 to 42% of the total Bloom incidences. And because of this, Dr. Wallace had begun looking into a program called Open Circle, a social emotional curriculum, to see if it would have an impact on these behavior incidences and closing the gap for the subgroups. So that really interested me, and I really wanted to start looking into that research. So with that, I had to look at the research and come up with, well, what do I really want out of this? Action research means that you take action on something. So I wanted to figure out, what do I want to impact my teaching? What do I want to impact my learning and my students' learning in my classroom? And so what I want to know is, to what degree does a social emotional curriculum is it implemented, and how is it implemented, and does that implementation impact the behavior incidences and closing the gap of the subgroups? So some of the definitions that I've already, some of the words that I've already said are some of the definitions that I'll continue to use throughout my research and throughout this proposal. The first one that I talked about was Bloom, the Behavioral Learning Optimization and Outcome Management System. It's a program that documents behavior incidences and requires interventions to be documented along with behavior and consequences. So it's a good source of data, hard data to be able to look at, to track, repeat things and stuff like that. Open Circle is the curriculum that we implemented at Challenger Elementary. It's a social emotional learning curriculum for students kindergarten through 5th grade, and is taught twice a week in the classroom, where students sit in a circle with an open chair, so that it has the idea of inclusion. And then it's also taught the social emotional learning the SEL that you see down there at the bottom. It's a curriculum that addresses the social and emotional needs of students in a way that's relevant and explicit. And then also positive behavior intervention and support. It's another behavior system that's implemented a lot. It's teacher-centered and is emphasizing the positive behaviors and using positive intervention to encourage those rules. So what I had to do was to look at the research that had already been done, and is this something that that I could go to find further research, or what could I do? So I began looking at the research. I looked at about 15 different articles, and I also spoke with some people from Open Circle about the research. And actually, these kinds of programs are on the rise because behavior is such a problem. Well, not a problem, it's such an issue basically with schools. These are on the, administrators are moving towards implementing PBIS and SEL curriculum school-wide. And so, but what I did find with the research that I really didn't know before is that PBIS is really teacher-centered. The teachers make the rules, the teachers make the expectations, and the teachers give out the reinforcement for the positive following of those rules. Whereas SEL is really student-centered. The teachers give context to the situations and teach the students how to respond in those situations. The SEL is more effective in teaching students how to self-regulate, how to identify the emotions that they have, and how to problem solve through those emotions. Through those explicit lessons, they're given certain situations, and then the students are able to, teach themselves basically what to do, the steps in what to do. And the research showed that while the SEL does not stop all of the problem behaviors, it does show that students interact better with their peers, and that they can respond more appropriately because they can identify their emotional triggers in certain situations. So it does have a positive impact. However, there are many variables that go into implementing the program: the effectiveness of the implementation, the professional development, the school climate, the student-teacher relationships. The research showed that when the program was implemented school-wide with priority given from the admin and from the teachers, and a culture that embraced the program, and that the teachers worked on building positive relationships with the students and buy-in from everybody, the research shows that the program had much more of an impact school-wide. So I took all of that information and decided, well, who do I want to look at in this study, and where do we want our focus to be? So what I wanted my focus to be was to take the Bloom reports, because that's the quantitative, that's the hard data that we can look at, and look at those reports from August 2017, because that is a year before we implemented Open Circle, all the way until May 2021, which would be our third year of implementation. And so all of the students that attended Challenger in that time would be participants, would be considered in that study, in the study. And then, and all of the data from there also. And then teachers from Challenger Elementary would also be participants, giving information regarding the Bloom reports and regarding the surveys that I would like for them to fill out too. So from there, then I developed an action plan. And the action plan is this, and this is what I'll conclude with the action plan. The Bloom reports will be taken from, like I said, from 2017, 18, 18, 19, 19, 20, 2021 school years. And I'll break them down into categories by grade level, teacher, sex, and race by year of attendance in Challenger. Teachers will be given surveys at the end of the school years of 2019-20 and 2021 for information regarding their personal professional development in the program, their attitude towards the program, the fidelity of the implementation, and how they felt that it affected their own classroom. I would also like to give surveys to the students at the end of school year 2021 that are in 3rd and 4th grades. These would be students who were there for the 3 years of implementation and a year or two prior to the implementation. So in those surveys, I would be looking for if they felt like the curriculum actually helped them with their behavior, if they actually took those lessons to heart and were able to use them in problem-solving steps, those kinds of things. And so lastly, the information from all of the surveys, and then take that and compare it with the data of the Bloom report, and to determine if an impact had been made on behavior referrals in the subgroups and all together. And also taking into account the variables of the changing student population, teaching population, and administrative population also. But those are all of the things that I'm going to be taking a look at to figure out what that is. And then based on all of that, hopefully being able to take that information and, like I said, making an impact, a better impact in the classroom, seeing what worked and what didn't work to try to do a better job school-wide, and then just in my own classroom also. So these are the references that I used. They're really small because I had to do a lot of them. And something that I didn't include on there was that I also talked to Ms. Drummond that works for Open Circle. And so we're going to be working together on this also through professional development and things like that. So I'm going to go back to the action plan, and then if you guys want to unmute yourselves if you have any questions or information that you think would be beneficial for me or anything like that.
Stephanie, this is great. This looks really good. I'm excited to see what you're going to find out. I'm sorry that you won't have data for this last bit of this school year, but I think it's still enough to go on. And so I think it'll be interesting to see what you end up coming up with.
Yeah, I'm excited to see too. I really, this behavior has been something that's kind of, I've always wondered, you know, how to make it better and what to do. And so the move towards social emotional curriculum, I think, is a really good one. I enjoy the conversations that we have in class during Open Circle. So yeah, this is something that I'm really excited to do. And the research is really fascinating because it goes all over the place. There's no one thing that says, yes, do it this way, or, you know, there's so many factors, which I think could be a little bit difficult also. Yeah. Anybody else? I'm trying to see.
I'm excited to see what the students are going to say in those surveys, the ones who have been doing it for 3 years, because I really, just from doing it 2 years with my students, I really see that some of them like really think about their behaviors and their emotions because of Open Circle, and they apply those strategies and techniques that we teach them. So I'm excited to see what our students will say about it.
Yes, because the one reason why I wanted to do the student surveys also is because some other research that I read said that the teachers in a year-to-year implementation, that a lot of times when the students came back in the fall, that it was kind of like how we feel sometimes, where they were just starting all over again. They couldn't remember what the lessons were. They couldn't remember what they had been taught the year before. And so that was another reason why I wanted to see I wanted to take a group that had been through it to see year after year after year if they knew, you know, if they did that. Because like I said, in some of the other research that I read, they said it was just like starting all over again. Like they'd never heard of Open Circle, you know, like they were like, oh, we add a chair, you know, I mean, it wasn't that specific to that. It wasn't specific to Open Circle, but that's what I thought about whenever I read the research. Yeah. I'm gonna,
somebody who pushes into all of the classes. I'm thrilled that you're going to be, you know, surveying or whatever the teachers also, because I know as a specialist pushing into different classes, I know what I've observed and what I think is going on, but it'll be interesting to see what comes back to, you know, people who think they're doing it to fidelity. Are we truly doing it the same or not? And, you know, as you push into different classes, a lot of times you can really stop and see, I believe, from my perspective, that those children are stopping and using the language of Open Circle and trying to speak to each other. And that, as you said, by doing the 3 years carryover of that, to see, is that something when they come back in the fall that, you know, yeah, maybe they don't remember all the math and the reading and writing, you know, bits and pieces of it. But if they can keep that emotional aspect going, no matter whose class they're in or what grade level, I would think that would be a win-win for all of us. So I can't wait to see what the research shows there.
Right. Yes. Yes. I'm excited about that too. I was going to say something and now I forgot. I was listening to you and I was thinking about it, but now I've forgotten. So, but yeah, because a lot of, like you said, I do see a lot of the students that when we go through the problem solving, they wait, they go, oh, wait, let me stop and see how I'm feeling, and, you know, and that kind of thing. So I am interested to see what they say. And for the teachers, I'm interested because Dr. Wallace and I talked about this, but then I also, when I spoke with Ms. Drummond from Open Circle, the amount of professional development, you know, we have not had the opportunity to have nearly the professional development that Open Circle usually requires for you to start the program. And then whenever you take into account new teachers and those kinds of things, you know, when the research that I saw was so strong about how it being just a total buy-in kind of thing, and then talking to her from Open Circle about how it the buy-in is just a huge part of it. So yeah, I'm looking forward to hearing from the teachers too, what they're, you know, what they think of it. So. Well, thank you all so much for being here with me today. And like I said, you were recorded, and if you want to check out my YouTube channel, you can see that one there. But I hope y'all have a great rest of the day, and I appreciate you. And I'll talk to you soon.
Thanks, Stephanie.
Thanks. Bye.
Bye.